A real woman is beautiful, patient, kind, and most importantly, has strength.
She got it, independent, don't need nobody.
She don't need nobody.
Work, hustle, grind hard.
What else she do?
She inspire, she got it, building up her empire.
That girl be working.
Work, hustle, grind
She
hard.
just taking over the world.
She inspire.
Work.
Wine and dime, she got no time.
Ooh.
Motivated on the
She like to grind.
Hustle through the week, she even hustle in her leisure
I see
time.
you, little mama.
Really classy and she fine. Meet her at the finish line. Catch her at the gym, you know she put in
that work, huh?
overtime. Working, chasing her dreams, that's all she knows.
That's all she know.
Looking on the screen. There go Mo.
What's up with your mo?
Women who inspire.
Network.
Just to change the world.
She gonna change it too.
All my ladies said with me.
Who run the world?
You know them women run the world. She got it, independent, don't need nobody.
You got it, little mama.
Work, hustle, grind hard.
Welcome to another episode of W.I.N.E Talk. Today we have our friend Ali on the show. How are you today, Ali?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you.
Thank you for coming on our show today. So Ali, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am new to the North Carolina region. We moved down here about a year and a half ago, and I work full-time as a pediatric physical therapist, and I recently started working as a Rodan and Field consultant.
That's fun. So you're a consultant. What exactly do you do there?
As a consultant? Well, basically, we have an incredible skincare line, and we help people unlock great skincare and find products that work the best for them. And then we help other women who want to sell those products be able to do so either full-time or part-time at home, spending time with their family,
Awesome.
making residual income. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me why you're coming onto this show today. What special focus do you have for our listeners?
Well, I did a little soul searching for this one, and I decided that my topic that I was going to talk about is for all of those women or men who have ever felt that self-doubt or who have felt isolated or like they're not good enough, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to. That has kind of been my storyline growing up ever since middle school. Yes, started in middle school. I was very much bullied in middle school. My best friend was the biggest bully of them all.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And I think that was the case because I didn't really know how to find my own voice or how to say anything back. So it was very much I was kind of very submissive, and she could kind of tell me what to do. And that's kind of my childhood. And that is kind of what reflected back into high school and then a little bit into college and then happened again towards grad school. Just kind of every new school would be a recurrent theme, or I was always the person who in a group of three would be the oddball out. And it was really hard to learn how to adapt to that. And I learned pretty quick that you kind of have to play to what everybody else wants you to be.
So you said this started in middle school.
Yes.
Was there anything that triggered that to start making you feel that way?
Well, I think middle school is a hard time for virtually anybody. And I was a pimply-faced kid I was very much a tomboy, wore my hair slicked back in a high ponytail every single day. And I liked to play sports with the boys outside. And I didn't have, going into middle school, I didn't realize that wasn't what most people were.
Right.
And I learned really quickly that that's not what a lot of people wanted to be friends with.
Right. Absolutely. I'm sure, I know a lot of people can really relate to that. And then you said through high school, you just felt the same way?
Yeah, through high school, it was more, I had a small group of friends. There always seemed to be three of us. And the other two people in my friend group were always just somehow seemed to me to be closer. And I was always kind of the oddball out, or I would find myself like I played soccer. And I was never truly one of the soccer people. I was never truly in any group. I kind of floated around. Which was kind of tough because, if you identify and you play a sport, you think, that's your clique, right? And
Right.
It just wasn't the case for me. I didn't fall into line with any group, and it was kind of hard to identify and to feel confident and safe in a group. So I kind of just tried to adapt to what other people wanted me to be.
So as that went from high school into your adulthood, how did that affect your adulthood and, having to work, maintain a healthy lifestyle? How did that affect you?
Well, it's for as long as I can remember, it's definitely been hard to trust people. It's been very hard to let people in. I've had a large wall built up for a long time, and I never let anybody in. And I kind of always, it was tough for me to figure out who I wanted to be because I was so busy trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be, because that's the only way that I knew how to make friends.
Right.
That's the only way that I knew how to get other people to actually like me.
Right. So coming out that shell, how long ago was it when you actually came out and started trying to socialize more and get out that barrier?
So honestly, probably about a year and a half ago when we moved down here.
Wow.
It was a brand new start. I was going to move down here, make new friends. And we got down here and I was so ready. And then I realized I don't really know anybody here. I don't have close friends here to call when I've had a hard day. I don't even know who to cut my hair.
You just start over.
Yeah, as silly as that is, I needed a haircut and I didn't know where to go and I had no one to ask. And I ended up asking a couple friends who were down here, but I would have a hard day, and yes, there were people that would probably care if I called them, but no one that I felt that I could really call and say, hey, can you just come sit with me?
Right.
And that was tough.
Right. So coming from that, I know what transformed you. How are you today?
Well, I'm someone who very much says yes. And so I learned, when I moved down here, I said no a lot. I would get invited to girls' nights, I would get invited out to dinner, and I would always say, no, I'm comfortable at home. And at the nagging of my husband, I eventually learned, despite how uncomfortable it might make you and how really you don't want to go, I started saying yes to the girls' nights. And I had a group of girls who would watch The Bachelor, and my first thought was, I don't watch The Bachelor. Why would I go to that? And I decided, to give girls' night a try. And it turned into a regular thing, and it was just nice the very first one I went to, I cried the entire way there. I sobbed in my car, cleaned myself up, marched my little butt in there, and I had my glass of wine. I did not say a word, but I was surrounded by other girls.
Right.
And eventually I started coming out of my shell. I started saying yes to more things, and I learned that the more that you put yourself out there and the more that you make yourself a little uncomfortable with the intention to grow, the easier it gets.
Absolutely. So I can say, from reflecting back on everything you said, I personally, throughout my life, I was considered an introvert. I did not like to have any friends in school. Nobody really spoke to me back then. I was pretty much an outcast, and throughout my life that followed me from elementary school to middle school to high school, into my adulthood, where same way people would invite me places, and I would say no or make an excuse up, and I would sit at home. I wouldn't even go out or do anything. So I understand exactly what it feels like, and I'm sure everybody has been to a point throughout their life where they've experienced that. For me, coming out, I realized I had went through some hard times throughout my life, and towards the peak ends of what I personally went through, I said, you know what? It's a new chapter within my life. I need to get out there. I can't be stuck in this hole. And I need to force myself to start mingling, start being different a little bit and spreading my wings. And unlike you, it's hard to believe, but about a year and a half ago, that's when I started coming out of my shell. I started opening up and saying, hey, let me start, let me go bowling, or hey, let me go to the movies, even if it was by myself. Let me go and start painting. And I did that, and it changed my whole mindset of how I think today. I watched myself flourish into a different person just by opening up that door that I had to force myself to get into. So relating back to you, everything that you went through, I completely understand. And I'm glad that you also expressed your story to everybody who's listening right now.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure there's so many people out there too who find it hard to say yes to things or push themselves out there. And I think that a lot can be said for making yourself uncomfortable and continuing to grow despite that discomfort.
Absolutely. And it's tough. It's not going to be an easy thing. Sometimes when we're in a situation, whether it's staying to yourself or just any situation that you're trying to improve on, sometimes it takes time. But when you open that door, it's a whole different transition. It's a whole different person you become. It's like climbing a ladder. So for anyone who's going through a situation like this, you're not alone. Plenty of us feel the same way. It's difficult for us to express how we feel. So Ali, I appreciate you actually, speaking on your end of the story of what you've been through, because it takes a lot just coming out the situation you said a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
That takes a lot to even come forward and be in front of everybody to express your story.
So you said that you had to find it in yourself to push yourself and open up a little bit. What triggered that?
I realized one day how alone I really was. One day I was going through a hard, difficult time in my life. And I said, I don't want to feel like this anymore. I want to I want to start growing. And I noticed I wasn't growing. I was stuck. So I said, one day, you know what? I'm going to put my foot down and I'm going to start becoming different. I'm going to start trying to go out there and speak to people and network and mingle and make friends. And I did. And you know what? The people who I do have in my circle are the most wonderful, amazing group of people I have. I watched myself grow. And that's the biggest thing. When you see that, it becomes addicting. And you want to just keep on saying, you know what? Let's do things that's out of your comfort zone and see where it's going to take you.
That is fantastic. And I'm really happy that you got there.
Oh, thank you. You as well.
Absolutely. And part of my whole process, one of the biggest things that I did that was a little bit outside of my comfort zone is last spring, my cousin, who does one of those crazy, side hustle things, asked me, she was like, Ali, has anybody ever shared Rodan and Fields with you? And of course I said no, I had never heard of it before. And she was like, is this something that you'd want to do? And my first thought was, absolutely not. I am not a salesperson. That's not me.
Right.
I'm, very much behind the scenes, maybe cuddled up in my PJs and a blanket. That's not my thing. I washed my face with the $10 face wash that I got at Ulta. And that was about my extent of skincare knowledge. And I don't know what possessed me to say yes, but I did. And I started to see and find a new sense of resilience and just self-confidence that I didn't necessarily know I had before because, I was so busy trying to make other people see something in me or like me that I had never really just branched out and was myself about it. And it was the first time that I really started to do that. And it makes me an income too. So it was crazy what I got out of that what I thought was a silly side hustle, to being way more into saying yes and reaching out and putting myself out there.
And and back to what you do as well.
Yeah.
You started using the products. Did you have acne before then?
No, I actually didn't. I'm sure you would have looked at me and said, that girl doesn't have bad skin.
You have perfect skin.
Well, thanks. I've been using the products for a little while now. But when I started, I was like, there's nothing really wrong with my skin, but they have a solution tool, and I took it just to see what was recommended, and it gave me a regimen for sensitive skin. And at first I was like, of course, like anything else, I don't have sensitive skin. And I started using it. I took my before picture, and what I realized was I did have sensitive skin. And the change that I saw was not what I expected. I expected, these products work a little bit, right. But they are transformative. Wow. And I looked at a picture, like 6 weeks in, and I was like, whoa.
That transformation.
Yeah, I thought I had gray skin. I'm sure I did. But you see what you can unlock and be better. And that was pretty astounding.
And I personally had, back in my years when I was a little younger, I had a different type of skin. But people fail to realize as we get older every year, our skin changes. Our whole body changes itself. So we might not be sensitive to one thing, maybe 5 years before, but years from then, your skin's different. So
absolutely.
So Ali, I'm glad you came on to the show today to tell the world your story of how you were throughout the years of basically being introvert, being by yourself, and feeling comfortable at that time. What words of encouragement could you tell someone who has been through the situation or is feeling currently being in that situation? What words of encouragement could you give to them?
Well, if it's a hard time that they're going through, I guess the first thing I would say is that's not it. It gets better. You just kind of have to put yourself out there. And the other thing is, be scared, but don't let that fear stop you from putting yourself out there. Say yes to things. Go try different things. Make new friends. If you're not sure who you are or if the people you're surrounded with like you, find other people. There's going to be someone who likes you for who you are. And if you don't know who that is, let someone else or dig deep and find it for yourself.
Absolutely. And everybody should really remember, just be yourself. Don't worry about what anybody else says or thinks about you. You have to just continue to live the life that you want to live and not worry about living for someone else. I thank you for coming on the show today. I thank you for sharing your story to everybody who's watching right now. A lot of people have been in the situation or going through it. So with you having the courage to come on today, you're helping so many people. So I thank you again. Thank you for watching another episode of W.I.N.E Talk. Today we learned about coming out of your comfort zone, being yourself, and remember, you can do anything by being you.